sisters, and this morning we are going to learn from one of the Old Testament books, the book of Zephaniah. And many of us already have read the book, and many of us might have preached from that book also. But this morning, I pray that Lord may help us to understand more insights from the book. Normally, many people, they don't read the Old Testament. We all know that. Even in my initial stage, I also did that mistake. And because many things in the Old Testament, we find it hard to understand. And that's why we used to avoid that book. And that is a kind of, what can I say, initial stage, and people, those who are not matured, may commit that mistake. And as we grow in the Lord, we should understand that both Old Testament and also New Testament, it gives strength and it is written for our exhortation. Even in the Old Testament, even in the New Testament epistles, Apostle Peter, Paul, they give a lot of quotations from the Old Testament. So without Old Testament, we cannot understand New Testament. So if you want to understand the grace of God in the New Testament, we should have a basic understanding of the Old Testament. Okay, we all know that Old Testament is important, but the problem is how to understand that. Many a times we try to understand, and because of some reasons we couldn't understand and we lose our interest. So now let us have a small portion of the reading. Then I think we can go into that book of Zephaniah. I ask any one of you to read from the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, first 7 verses. Zephaniah 1, chapter 1, first 7 verses. One of us can read now.
Okay, I am reading. Zephaniah,
yes.
Book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, 1 to 7 verses. The word of the Lord which came unto Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amittai, the son of Echiniah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Amron, king of Judah. I will utterly consume all things from off the land, said the Lord. I will consume man and beast. I will consume the fowls of heaven and the fishes of the sea and the stumbling blocks with the wicked, and I will cut off man from off the land, said the Lord. I will also stretch out mine hand upon Judah, upon all the inhabitants of the Jerusalem, and I will cut off the remnant of Baal from the place, and the name of the Chemarims with the priests, and them that worship the hosts of heaven upon the house steps, and them worship the swear by the Lord, and swear by Malachim, and them that are turned back from the Lord, and those that have not sought the Lord, not inquired for him, hold the peace at the presence of the Lord, for the day of the Lord is at hand. For the Lord hath prepared a sacrifice, he has did his guests.
Thank you. See, listen carefully how the book starts with the word of God's rebuke. The word of the Lord came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Ezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah. When you read the very first words, it is very boring. To be very frank, many people, as I say, I too will understand and agree with them. Even the introduction or the first book itself, or the first 2 words, when we find it, it gives a lot of names, unfamiliar names. And the moment you start reading, we may not have an idea who is Cushi, who is Gedaliah, who is Amariah, and who is Ammon. The moment we don't understand any names, naturally we get bored. Okay. even if you take some more encourage and read, again how it comes, the great day of the Lord, I will utterly consume everything from the face of the land, says the Lord. I will consume the man and the beast. I will consume the birds of the heavens, fish, sea, and the stumbling blocks among the wicked. See, it starts with God's anger and curse. So, dear friends, it is human tendency to read the scripture wherever you come across blessings or encouragement. No one is interested in reading the portions which gives curse. So this is again where we stumble. So the moment we read a portion with a lot of curse and God's anger, again we lose interest. Now, I want to understand with a lot of questions. See, we know God is a God of grace, God is a God of love. And when you read this portion, God is more angry about Judah. That's why he's talking like this. So there always be two sides of a story. Why such a loving God is so angry on Judah? If you don't understand, the entire Zephaniah book will be a mystery and it will be boring. And great scholars, what they say, why people do not read the book of prophets? First thing, we come across unfamiliar names, as you read now. The name of the person, the name of the place, and the culture they have followed. Mostly we are very unfamiliar, and that's why we are not getting interest. Second thing, it uses lot of oracles or curse. That's why people avoid that. Me too. I avoided reading the book of prophecy for several years after my Christian life. Once I got an enlightening through a Bible study, then I started reading. Once you understand the background, it is the most interesting, most relevant book for the New Testament. I repeat, the moment we understand the background history and the reasons why God was angry, the book of prophecy is the most interesting, most relevant book for the people who are living in the last days. So in that idea and with that background, we are going to study the book of Zephaniah now. See, hereafter we are going to straight away the PowerPoint, and you please follow that. I close my video and let us go to that PowerPoint. I hope you could all see that full screen. Right, now let us go into the book of Zephaniah and try to understand the background. The main theme of this Zephaniah is the day of the Lord. The main theme of the Zephaniah book is day of the Lord. Actually, we are going to see some classic truth from the minor prophets, and we are going to analyze and apply how that book is applied today in our relevant days, in our today's context. So now let us go one by one. Now, you could have seen in the last few years, in every new year, people are so anxious to know what comes next, how this prophecy or how this new year going to be a blessing And what are the things going to happen in this new year? There are people who are taking advantage of that. They say prophecy, and you might be noticing several years, the past few years, they say something, this and that will happen, that and that will happen. Something, certain things, it exactly happening, and most of the things are not happening. And watching this, in the recent years, you also might have noticed, even non-Christians also watching that video published by the so-called so many ministers of God. They keenly observe whether such their prophecy are fulfilling. So not Christians, but secular world are interested in seeing how far their prophecy is fulfilling. And there are so many, what they say nowadays, they are going to natural disorders, this earthquake, this and that, but nothing is new. Jesus Christ, the great prophet, has already told that these things will happen in the last days. So when you see in the last days, the prophecy are mostly verbal prophecies, not written prophecy. See, the verbal prophecy in the New Testament may happen or may not happen, but all the Old Testament prophecies are written prophecies. And what Jesus told, everything that is written on the book of the law and the prophecy will fulfill. Not even a stroke will be omitted. So why we should not neglect Old Testament prophecies? The Old Testament prophecies are mostly written prophecies, exactly 100% it will fulfill. There is no ambiguities, there is no questions. It will fulfill exactly as it was told by the prophets. And that's why when people are so anxious in the today's prophecies, we should not neglect the Old Testament prophecies. Now let us come to that point. Why should we read the book of Zephaniah? I'm going to discuss or share this thought as a sample from the book of Old Testament, how far each prophetic books in the Old Testament is important. Now, we are going to take Zephaniah as a sample book and to study how far and why should we read the Old Testament books today, right? When you read, I'm just giving an overall idea and an outline. When you read this, only three chapters, the book of Zephaniah is only 3 chapters. And it's a warning message, and it is very relevant to the present occasion. Okay? In what are the ways it is very relevant? It gives how God look at the world and his people when the sins and the wickedness are multiplying. See, when the sins and the wickedness multiplying, we are not happy, and we are thinking in our heart, is there anyone to look at this, and is there any solution? There is a solution in the book of Zephaniah. How God look at when the world and the God's people are multiplying in sins and wickedness. Not only that, the present day is very quickly indulged in false religion. Once you read the book of Zephaniah, you will understand what is meant by false religion. Even in Christianity, most of the people are living in false religion, and God is grieving, and God is so sad about the sin people are living in, especially God's people. So God has already given his word, his law, and he has shown what is righteousness, and man has, and every believer has a freedom. What freedom? God has given a freedom. Every man has a freedom either to obey or to disobey. Okay, so that freedom God has given not only in the Old Testament and also in the New Testament. And from the book of Zephaniah, we are going to see But the freedom is okay, but there is no freedom to escape from its consequences. Okay, God has given freedom, but man can either to choose obey or to disobey, but he cannot escape from the consequences of the wickedness. In that condition, very few people, a small remnant of people, those who are really faithful to God, as in the days of Zephaniah, they were so faithful to God, Yahweh or the Jehovah. God never forgets them and never leave them alone. So in the days of wickedness, a kind of false religion, the small faithful people, God never forget, and he protect them from all kind of wickedness that is going to come on the earth. Okay, so that is a kind of a sample book. We are going to see the truth from book of Zephaniah. Now let us go how we can apply that, and let us see the introduction. See this very carefully. The book of Zephaniah contains a lot of warnings, and it gives a lot of destruction on the book of the city of Jerusalem. See, the entire book of Zephaniah gives how God gives a reward for the wicked, especially those who live on Jerusalem. And in that time, the prophet named Zephaniah gives the meaning God hides, God secures, God treasures. Meaning is the same, but we should understand the real meaning of Zephaniah. So Zephaniah means God hides, God secures his people, God treasures. Treasures means the very precious thing. How far safe we keep it, the same way God will keep his children. Okay, right. So in the days of calamity, in the days of persecution, in the days of great day of the Lord, God definitely secure or hide his people from all the evil. So this prophecy you have seen so many times in the book of Psalms and in the Old Testament. In the days of calamity, God will hide his people and protect them from all the evil. That's the main theme of Zephaniah. Now let us read the book of Zephaniah, verse 1 and 1. What we read, as I told, it gives a 4 names. The word of the Lord, which came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah. See, what a long list of names. We may think, why this kind of long introduction? Please follow with me. Hezekiah, he gives the 4 of his forefathers: Cushi, Gedaliah, Amariah, Hezekiah. Why this Zephaniah should give 4 of his ancestors? There is a reason behind that. There were 20 kings that ruled Judah. Among that 20, only 8 kings were God-fearing, all the 12 were wicked. You know the history of Judah and Jerusalem. We are going to see a small table. When you see the table, you will understand. So among the 20 kings of Judah, only 8 were God-fearing king, and other 12 were wicked. Now see, this is the table. This big list are kings of Judah, and these are the kings of Israel. And you can see small colored boxes here. And this is the list, and in that list some boxes are black in color, some boxes are white, some boxes are gray in color. Okay, what this color represent? Black means those kings are totally wicked kings. They never feared God and walked in God's way. When you see the kings of Israel, all the 20 boxes or the 20 kings are black in color. That means all they are wicked. Come to Judah. In Judah, you can see some are white in color, some are gray in color. As I told, black means they are wicked kings, those who never feared God and walk in his ways. White means that shows those kings, they are 100% good, 100% they walked in God's ways. What are these ashes? They 50% they walked in God's way and 50% they never obeyed God. So these are these colored boxes representing the totally kings of Judah and Israel. So now let us see this box. This Hezekiah is a God-fearing king. Okay, come to that. Who is Hezekiah? Hezekiah was the great grandfather of Zephaniah. Okay, and that's why the Zephaniah, he want to identify, he comes from a royal family. Normally, a royal family, the young born prince should come as a king. But in the story of Zephaniah, Zephaniah never become a king, but he become a godly man, a prophet. Normally, you can see in any family, a doctor's family means all will become doctors. A lawyer's family, generation by generation, they will make them lawyers. In engineering, they make them engineers. But in this case, a man from the royal family, instead of going for administration, he came for full-time ministry and he prophesies and lead God's people in God's path. That's the speciality. That's why in the first two words, Zephaniah, he want to show he comes from a royal family. Instead of going for administration, God has called him for this prophetic ministry. So according to God's plan, Zephaniah has come for prophesying and leading the Judah into God's ways. That's why this kind of Zephaniah gives such an introduction. Zephaniah comes from a royal dynasty, as I told, right? This table I explained. See, we must understand what would be the background when these books are written. We know in United Kingdom period, all the 12 tribes were united under Saul, David, and Solomon, 120 years approximately. Then the kingdom divided, and during the time of, after the time of Solomon's, Rehoboam times, the northern kingdom called Israel, taking Samaria as their capital, southern kingdom, Judah, taking Jerusalem as capital. And to summarize, Israel are the 10 tribes taking northern kingdom, and Judah and Benjamin, they made southern kingdom, taking Jerusalem as their capital. Shechem was the earlier capital, then it became called as Samaria. Now, let us come to the date of Zephaniah. Now, in the first verse itself, we find in the days of Josiah. In the days of Josiah. Have you ever thought in Old Testament book, why all the prophetic books starts with the name of a king? Take almost all the prophetic books in the Old Testament. In the first verse and in the second verse, it will introduce a king. In the days of Joshua, in the days of Uzziah. Why most of the prophetic books start with the name of the king? That is the reason. If you know the name of the king, it gives almost 90% of the background, the historical background, the political background, the economic background, the cultural background, and the religious and spiritual background. So why all the prophets, they start with the name of the king? The moment they mention the name of the king, 90% of the background of the book is already understood. So for Israelite and Judah, the moment they say a king, people understood the background, what are the background these things took place. But for new readers like you and me, who read that Old Testament prophecy book almost 2000 years or almost 2500 years later, we do not know the background, and that is why the book is very much not interesting. Friends, I want to say one thing. The moment we understand the background or the king and his background, we will understand 90% of the message of the book. But normally what we do, when you read a book of prophecy, normally we omit the names and the name of a king. Dear friend, let me say, if any person or any reader who omit the name of the king and the background, you lose 90% of the message from the book. So the book contains 90% of the message in the introduction itself. What is that condition of that background? Now here, the book of Zephaniah, it starts with the name, a king called Josiah. So the moment you understand Josiah and turn back to the timeline period, you will understand 90% of the people's history. Look at this very keenly, and I will explain and how we should understand this. Just a minute, kindly excuse me. Read in the Kadavu Putain. So dear brothers, kindly see the timeline of this Old Testament prophet. First line, which starting from 950 BC to 400 BC, this is called timeline. So this is coming in descending order. As you know, in the Old Testament, the time is going down from time of Abraham until birth of Christ. This timeline of prophet is framed in such a way that it gives the history of the Israel and the people from BC 950 to BC 400. It starts in descending order. So first row is the timeline. Second row is the dominating empires. Okay, you can see Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, and Persia. So as friends, if we neglect this, we will lose the entire message in the prophecy of book of prophets. First slab, you see, Egypt. So when God's people are dominated or influenced by Egypt culture, Egypt religion, and Egyptian authorities from the period of BC 950 until BC 800. Okay, and from 800 to approximately BC 650, this God's people, Israel, were influenced by the most powerful nation called Assyria. You can see that every culture or their influence of Assyria in their lives and their style. Then comes Babylon, BC 650 to 550. Then comes Persia. So first line is the timeline, second line is the influential, the kingdoms. Okay. And Bible scholars, they say, and the third line is gives the history of the Israel. Okay. Until BC 750, NS means North-South Kingdoms, United Kingdom. From 950 to 750, both Northern Kingdom, Southern Kingdom together called the United Kingdom. Okay. And after 750, Judah, they become alone. In 750, what happened? Israel was taken by Assyria as captive, and they are disappeared or lost tribe. Till this day, they are lost. That's why Jesus told when he was sending his disciples, don't go to the heathen kind of people, go and preach the gospel to the lost Israel. Okay. And Judah is alone, only Judah and Benjamin. And they were partially influenced by Assyria and partially influenced by this Babylon. This 70 years is exile period and then post-exile period. Now, this is the history of Israel. Now comes this around 950, Solomon died. In this triangle, the period approximately between this Israel fall, as I told, they are last tribe between this. Then in BC 675, the Judah taken to Babylon, and these captives, they return. Now comes the very important period, the fourth row. It is called major prophets. Fifth row is a row of minor prophets, and other is other prophetical books. You have to see this correspondingly with the timeline. Major prophets are Isaiah. He prophesies during the period of Assyria 750 to 650. Okay. Jeremiah and Daniel, Ezekiel, they prophesied during this period. Now let us come to that. Where is our prophet Zephaniah? Zephaniah is here. See, Zephaniah is here. And where he exactly fitting? If you go exactly, it comes between BC 700 and 650. This is the period Zephaniah prophesied. Why this table? We are going to see the background of this book. How was the people? What is their culture? So it is the period between this to Zephaniah prophesied. Now let us see what happened during this period and what was the condition of that people. Now let us try to understand. Jewish nation in BC 641. That was the period book of Zephaniah was written approximately. Historical background. So when you mention the name of a king, as I told, it gives 90% message. For example, Josiah, what happened to the people of Israel, this Judah in the time of Josiah? I'll give an example. If somebody want to write the history of India and want to mention, they can mention just by giving the name of the ruler, and you can understand the difference. Okay, this is a great difference between saying during the period of Manmohan Singh, and the same way when you start during the rule of Modi, you can easily understand because you have seen the background of Congress is ruling India and Modi and BJP is ruling India. That makes the difference. You can easily compare what was the cost of petrol when Congress was ruling and what is the present day and the economic condition of India when Modi is ruling. This is the main difference when the prophets, they were writing the prophecy and giving the message. They mentioned the ruler's name, and the remaining message, the background itself, it speaks. Now, what is the condition of Judah or Jewish nation in BC 641? We can understand the religious background, political situation, the community or the culture, and the economic background. Now come with me. It is already by the grace of God, it is written all the conditions in the book itself. When you read from verses 4 to 7, it gives the what was the religious condition of the people. Okay, now come with me. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 4 to 7. One of us can read.
I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And I will cut off from this place the remnant of Baal and the name of the idolatrous priests, along with the priests, those who bow down on the roofs to the host of the heavens, those who bow down and swear to the Lord, and yet swear by Milcom, those who have turned back from following the Lord, who do not seek the Lord or inquire of him. Be silent before the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is near. The Lord has prepared a sacrifice and consecrated his guests.
Right. Now, could you see there is a great deviation in this verse? What deviation? People become idolaters. You can see from that verse. In verse 4, you can see, I will cut off every trace of Baal from this place. See, where come this Baal came in Jerusalem?
And I'm not able to hear it.
Hello,
Hello.
Selvarajana. I think he's not. No, he's there. Anna?
Hello, Anay, Selvarajane.
Selvarajana is there. He's there. Na. I think there's some problem.
There,
He's
yes.
now.
Well,
Now he's left. Na. I
left,
think he had.
Oh. That is sequence.
Hi, Pani. Subhash Bhaiya.
Yeah, Anna joined again.
Join,
Yeah.
Line cut off.
Oh, like,
Hear me?
okay.
Yes, na. Yes, na.
Okay. Now you can see, originally this Jewish people are worshippers of Jehovah, Yahweh God. But here we see that is another name of idol called Baal.
Anand PPT.
Huh? Hello?
PPT is not come. Share.
Oh. Okay. Please wait.
Yes, Anna, yes.
Okay. Right. Now, why God was angry? First thing, they have deviated from God to Baal and other idols. So when you see the times of Josiah, the background says they are worshipping Baal in secret in their home. And they worshipped Jehovah in the ground floor. And when you come to the fifth verse, they say, I will punish those who worship the host of heaven on the housetops. In the first floor or in their open terrace, they were worshipping that heavenly host called Asherah or this Astroth. I will show you the pictures. So again in sixth verse, you can see another name of God, those who have turned back from following the Lord and have not sought the Lord. In fifth verse, in the back, in the later portion, you can see those who swear by the name of Milcom. Milcom is another idol, and I will show you. To that extent, they have backslidden from the living God. Okay, and that's why God was angry. That was the spiritual standard in the days of the people in 641. What is the political situation? You can turn to first chapter, verse 8. One of us can read.
Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 8. On the day of the Lord's sacrifice, I will punish the princess and the king's son and all those clad in foreign clothes.
Okay, here we come across another strange thing. God says, in the day of the Lord, I will punish the princess, the king's children, those who are clothed with foreign apparel. See, I'll explain what is this. You know, Jewish way of dressing. A long tunic that is cloth, and there is a turban in the head. That is a Jewish way of dressing. But here I will explain you, because of Assyrian influence, Assyria has won the people. Many people want to show them they are Assyrians. They denied Jehovah God, they denied Jewish culture, the God-given biblical culture, and they want to show themselves as they are following Assyrian God and Assyrian culture. Their way of dressing was typically like Assyrians. Okay, and God was angry. And literally, they started worshipping Assyrian gods and they were following Assyrian culture. And that's what God here says, I will punish the people, especially the royal people. They want to be friends with Assyria. They want to be faithful to Assyria. Here again, I want to give the example, taking Tamil Nadu and central government. Here, what happens, whatever central government Modi says, the Tamil Nadu chief minister accepts, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, you are 100% true. They want to play a second fiddle for Modi. In Tamil, we will say, they accepted, and whatever they say, they want exactly follow. In the time of BC 641, there were a huge people, royal people. They left God's law, they left their way of culture and started following even the way of dressing like Assyrians. That made God angry. That's the political situation. What is the culture? What is their community habits? Come to verse 9. One of us can read. Zephaniah 1:9. One of us can read now.
Next, Gujarat.
Sorry.
Correct.
In the same way, I will punish all those who leap over the threshold, who fill their masters' houses with violence and deceit.
I will show I will punish those who leap over the threshold, that means stepping stone, who fill their master's house with violence and deceit. Here, a culture was followed by the Jewish people who will not put their step on the entrance, that is the top of the first step. They will jump. They will go to any temple, or they will not step on the top step. Instead of putting their leg, they will jump. From where they got the culture? From the Philistines. See, read with me 1 Samuel 5:5. 1 Samuel chapter 5:5. I'll explain this, then you will understand what is that. There was a constant war going between Philistines and the people of Israel. And one day the Philistines, they took the covenant box and put it in their temple called Dagon. In Dagon's temple, they put the God's covenant box. What happened when they come the next day? That huge temple, Dagon is a fish-like god. It fell prostrate before the covenant box. They took it and put it in the place. When they come the next day, again the Dagon idol fall in face before the covenant box, and all the head and the shoulders broken into pieces, and the head was lying on the first footstep. People afraid. And from that day onwards, the Philistines, they will not put the first step in the first staircase. They will jump, and that become a habit. No, you read 5:5.
Today, Brother Xavier is not there, and then next is Karnataka, Brother Arun.
Yes, brother, I'm here. 1 Samuel 5:5. Therefore, neither the priests of the Dagon nor any who come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day.
So, in another day, they will not put their footstep. Instead, they will jump. Okay, that kind of habit. They are afraid and they will jump. That habit come into the people of Judah. They will won't place their foot on the first step. They jump, and again, they will oppress the poor. Okay, so in Zephaniah 1:9, what we read, they oppress the poor with violence and deceit, cheating. For that, we can read one verse from book of Isaiah, chapters 5, verse 7 and 8. Book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 7 and 8.
This is the story of the Lord's people. They are the vineyard of the Lord Almighty. Israel and Judah are his pleasant garden. He accepted them to yield a crop of justice, but instead he found bloodshed. He expected to find righteousness, but instead he heard cries of oppression. Destruction is certain for you who buy up property so others have no place to live. Your homes are built on great estates so you can be alone in the land.
Verses 8 and further, sister. Oh, to those who join, read that verse. The meaning here.
Destruction is certain for you who get up early to begin long drinking roast that last day late into the night.
8th verse. Anna is asking 5:8.
Destruction.
Isaiah 5:8.
I will explain the verse, then you will understand that. what is injustice, what is called oppression. In Jerusalem, there were some people who had 5 houses. You can have a cross reference with Book of Amos. They will live in summer in one house. In winter, they will go to another house. Such royal people, rich people had 5 houses and more than that. At the same time, there were poor people who are oppressed by these rich people. Both are Jewish God's people, not even having a single house. So this kind of accumulation of properties, rich man becoming rich and rich, poor man becoming poor and poor. This is a culture from Philistines. This is called Baalism. Only in other religion you can see such kind of practices. God has clearly told in the Moses law, when your brother become a debtor, after 7 years, you forget year of Jubilee. This is a very good economic principles. The money will go in circle and equal in all the time. If you fail to do that, rich man will keep on richer, poor man will keep on becoming poor. So this God's economy is given in God's law. People forget that. They followed the heathen people practicing Baalism. And there were people who are so rich, and there were people in the same city, same kind of people becoming poor. And the reason is given here, Isaiah 5:8. I will read that 7 and 8. Watch carefully. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and men of Judah are his pleasant plant. He looked for justice, but behold, oppression. For righteousness, but behold, a cry for help because of injustice. Okay. In verse 8, oh, to those who join the house to house, they add field to field till there is no place where they may dwell alone in the midst of the land. See, God is watching. And literally, prophet Isaiah is crying, Lord, what injustice? Is there a God in Israel, in Judah? Is there a God in Jerusalem? God was watching. One man is keep on becoming rich, and another man is becoming poor. How he is becoming rich? By injustice, by oppression. Then God told, come near, give you ear. I will going to tell you what will happen. This rich man will keep on building his house, but he will not inherit. Beautifully built house, wonderfully colored with paint. 3-phase current he will get, but he will not go into that possession. Before that, I will give my judgment. They will go to Babylon. That's what the next verse we can see. In 9th verse, see God's justice. In 9th verse, in my hearing, the Lord of the host said, truly, many houses shall be desolate, great and beautiful ones without inhabitant. That is God's. When he is building, God won't put his hand saying, don't buy, don't build house. He will allow. Buying, just go ahead. You get 3-phase current by just go ahead. Let me tell you whether you inherit the house or not. That is God's justice. So here, this is an sample portion saying that how far these Jewish people are following the heathen practices by oppressing the poor. See, now we have seen 3 things. Religious and spiritual standard, they have utterly backward. They have become totally idolaters. In politicals, they are hypocrites. They are subject to the superpower Assyria, pretending that they are following their culture and religion. politicians, double game. In community and practice, the literal practice of the heathen, the rich are oppressing the poor, has entered in Judah, and God was not happy. When you read from verse 10 and 11, the economy and business was growing. People seems to be blessed. When you come to the book of Zephaniah, verses 10 and 11, you can read, people are rich becoming, and that they thought it was God's blessing. Dear friends, don't mistake material blessings is a symbol of God's blessing. Many a times Israel and Judah were rich and they were so much blessed, but that is not the condition that God was happy on them. All their material possessions was God's blessing. God was angry. God has set a day for judgment. That was the book of Zephaniah, the day of the Lord. How God looked at the people, their kind of false religion. They worshiping God of Jehovah in one place, and secretly worshiping other gods and following their practices in their life, which is we call the false religion. That is the condition of Judah in BC 641.